one of my friends, William Costello, evolutionary psychologist out here in Austin at UT, he was explaining the fact that there is a greater prejudice against people of the same race with a different accent than people of a different race with the same accent. And the explanation for this is pretty simple, that evolutionarily, ancestrally, it would have been very unlikely for us to encounter somebody of a different race, but very likely for us to encounter someone that had a slightly different dialect or a slightly different accent. And what that means is that you have very interesting crossing prejudices and counteracting prejudices. For instance, if you were to see an Arab man that walked into the room but then started speaking like somebody that was from the south end of London or whatever it might be, if you have someone whose race and accent do not line up, for instance, I mean, everybody can think about this. If you were to see somebody walk into the room that is of a different race to you but speaks with the same accent, you would immediately think, well, we have an awful lot in common. You forget about the fact that they're of a different race. But then you flip that round. Okay, let's have somebody walk into the room who is of the same race as you, but has an entirely different sort of accent. There is immediately a big distance. And I just thought that totally blew my mind. Okay, you're telling me that there is more prejudice against people with different accents than people of different races. Totally took my head off.
And it makes perfect sense the way you've explained it. And William Costello absolutely nailed it right on the head there. The thing I would add to that is I was talking to, probably shouldn't mention who it is. I was talking to one of the UK's top impressionists the other day. And interestingly, we were talking about impressionism as an art form and as a form of humor. And he said that he had come across people actually who had pointed the finger at impressionists as cultural appropriators, which is a very interesting argument. Now, whereas I don't buy it, whereas, I think we have an innate fascination for different voices coming out of the same person. It's very incongruous. The incongruity principle is very powerful in all kinds of things. That's why we're so fascinated with serial killers, for example, because they appear on the outside to be very normal, but of course they've got these, horrendous alter egos raging behind the scenes. If you have different voices coming out of the same person, then there is a real fascination with that. So we're fascinated by impersonators and impressionists. But actually, there's been recent lobby saying, well, actually, if you're doing different accents or taking people off, then why is that not cultural appropriation? Let's not go down that road, mate, because that's another 2 hours. We could sit there talking about that one. But it's a good one to throw out there. But interestingly, it's very when you look at when you talk to someone. And again, this is something that this impersonator, this impressionist who I was talking to, delved into. And I'm sure you do it. I certainly do it. If you really like someone, sometimes without knowing it, you end up talking a little bit like them. When you're in conversation with someone, you might adopt a little bit of their speech patterns. Might not be their accent. Sometimes it is in extreme cases, but you might unconsciously mirror the tone or the speed at which, or the tempo at which they're speaking. So the voice of somebody is something that we find it very difficult not to empathize with. So that's where William Costello is coming from there. That's another reason, an empathy reason. When we hear voices, it's one of those things that is a marker of how we gain an impression of someone. And we're very, very susceptible to sound coming out of people's of lips and how they sound.
Let me throw some bro science at you. Is it the case that accents get locked in and are less likely to change as you grow up, but are more likely to change if you are younger? Let's say that you spend the first 7 years of your life in Ireland and then you move to America or whatever. You're going to end up with pretty much just an American accent. And if you maybe make the move at sort of 13 or 14, you're going to end up with sort of an Irish American accent after maybe 10 years.
Yeah.
Would that be adaptive in case ancestrally you ended up merging with another tribe, perhaps being taken over by another tribe, and it would be in your interests to align yourself in terms of your accent with the accent of the new tribe that you have joined, because that is going to be one of the key determinants in not making you an outsider.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what, Chris? You should. I don't know if you've ever studied psychology, mate, but you should definitely give it a go. I mean, I'd never heard that before. Never thought of that before. I think it's an absolutely cool theory. And I can see that I could instantly pull out of the hat a lot of evidence to back that up. Absolutely. The ability, and, I'm going to do a study actually, because no one's really looked at it. What makes people, why are some of us really good at changing our accents? Why are some of us not so good? What makes great impressionists? There's all kinds of different things. There's the flexibility of the vocal tract, for example. So there's going to be all kinds of individual differences in this. But yeah, the ability to change your accent and to blend in would indeed confer an evolutionary advantage going forward. Absolutely.
What's happening, people? If you enjoyed that, then press here for a selection of the best clips from the podcast over the last few weeks. And don't forget to subscribe. Peace.